As soon as I finished the movie, I said, disappointed. Originally, after I saw the trailer, my expectations were low, very low. I thought, here we go, another anti machine movie, even though it looks like they're using relatively new and more recent ideas. That part I really liked. It got me excited to see at least how it turns out. But then I was told by a YouTube user named LRound4 in a comment that it had the opposite message. I see why LRound thought that, but no. No, I still disagree. I know exactly what I will title this review. Transcendence Review. The smartest, and I'm using air quotes as hard as I possibly can, the smartest dumb Hollywood movie that I've seen. Almost all of these ideas they're using are very smart and fairly new for a big budget Hollywood movie, like The Singularity in general, which to my knowledge hasn't been used by name in any big budget Hollywood movie. We've got mind uploading, that's been used before. Artificial intelligence growing at an increasing rate. That's still a relatively new thing. We've got decreasing time needed for major scientific discoveries because of it. Nanobots with medical uses. That's popped up here and there a little bit. And really superficially, maybe we touch on consciousness sharing, but, well, artificial intelligence being represented, technically speaking, in this relatively new, fairly accurate way is really the big one. That's the one I was interested in seeing how they handled. But the way they're using that and these ideas is overall dumb, boring, anti-machine, and poorly written. It feels like it was written by a stupid Hollywood executive who doesn't understand writing, got his hands on some Ray Kurzweil, Singularity science fiction, and maybe some older Hollywood AI movies like The Lawnmower Man and Colossus the Forbin Project, both of which I've seen just because reviews mentioned them in connection to this movie. Basically, about how this movie shows pretty much no progress since then. A word on those couple movies if you're not familiar with them. Colossus was made in 1974, and it's basically about a computer during the Cold War that takes control of our nukes. Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker ring a bell, anyone? And it becomes self aware and tries to end war by taking over everything. It wins, and the whole tone is still pretty anti machine, since they give it an evil machine voice. It kills a lot of people and does things unnecessarily stupid and antagonistic. Pretty ahead of its time, though, all things considered. Someone mentioned Colossus before to me in my comments in relation to the Patriot AIs, but I still consider it well beneath Metal Gear Solid 2. It shares some ideas, though. I'll possibly talk about the bigger differences later when I make another video. The Lawnmower Man from 1992 is about a scientist using drugs and VR learning to make a guy smarter. It feels very 80s. It kind of jumps the shark when they pull some movie BS and he gets psychic powers. It changes in tone to a horror movie, and it ends in him trying to upload himself into the internet. He fails. Though it's interesting because the movie was made before the internet really hit critical mass, and web pages were just barely a thing in 1992. So I would sooner recommend someone watching Colossus, the Forbin Project, before The Lawnmower Man. I can see the similarities to Transcendence. They're both better movies. They're far more entertaining and interesting to watch. But I do think they're behind it philosophically. Sadly, maybe. Transcendence is a movie where someone basically took the newer ideas about the future of technology and AIs, and they just adapted them to this old anti-machine narrative style that we have that's dominating Hollywood, and they failed in pretty much every way in terms of the execution on top of that. Originally, after seeing the trailer, I considered it what I'd call a Class 1 story. That's a narrative that tries to make machines out to be inferior, and it's a specific type of narrative I'd call a Trojan machine narrative, like Terminator 2, the Will Smith iRobot movie, which should have never been called that and have no connection to Asimov, because it really doesn't, and The Machine, which just came out last year. And after seeing the Transcendence, my mind didn't change. I realized that's where it belongs on my scale. The narrative is very similar in all of these Trojan Machine narratives, I'd say. Here's how they basically all go. The tone is entirely anti-machine throughout. But the question of can we make a machine that can think like us and have emotions is posed up front, and then answered with a yes relatively early on, technically. Because the movie doesn't actually care about that. It kind of forgets that part of it. And around the halfway point or so, the movie's plot changes to, for some reason, machines are evil and are rebelling, trying to take over right now. Just because. And this movie is really no exception, and that's a shame. So, the guy who wrote this movie is a guy by the name of Jack Paglin. He's a total unknown. He's written nothing else. This script was on the blacklist. And for people who don't know, the blacklist is a survey of Hollywood executives and agents of what their favorite scripts were that haven't been produced that they've seen. Not the best scripts or the ones that haven't been bought. Basically, they're most like scripts that haven't been produced yet. I've read a number of the scripts from the blacklist. None of them were that good. That's probably why they aren't currently being produced at the time of their publishing in the blacklist. Although sometimes they are produced by that point. If I'd have seen this one, I would have written on my script report to basically pass on this one. It has newer ideas, but it treats them like garbage, doesn't use them properly. We've got Johnny Depp here taking on a smaller role that critics have said reminds them of the B movies he did during the 90s before Pirates got big. He's barely in the movie. His performance isn't that notable. It's intentionally very robotic, and that's kind of part of the problem, that's what ends up happening with how he portrays his character. And he's supposed to be the big name really carrying this movie. It's the first film directed by Christopher Nolan's cinematographer. Chris Nolan is an executive producer on it, and the cinematographer here is at best known for stuff like Hot Fuzz and 30 Minutes or Less, which I haven't seen. So for the writer and director, it's their first time, and the cinematography in this movie really isn't worth mentioning. Sounds like a recipe for failure to me, and apparently it was. So it was a $100 million budget movie, meaning it needs to make at least $200 million gross worldwide to break even for the studio, since they only get about half the gross, or at least that's a really crude way of guesstimating about how much money they'd really need to break even. It's only made about $65 million worldwide after 3 weekends. So it's like done. It's about to be gone out of theaters. It's a bomb. It's 13th at the box office right now after those 3 weekends. It only opened at number 4. It was supposed to open domestically 20 mil for the weekend. It didn't even get 12 mil its first weekend. The Rotten Tomatoes score is 20%. So both critically and commercially, it's a total failure. I had to really search to find a theater still showing it when I finally saw it 2 days ago. It's a 2-hour movie. It really could have used 30 minutes less. It drags a lot in the middle. Nothing really happens in the middle too much. The Wall Street Journal called it a techno dystopia, which it is, sadly. Now, I think whether a movie has a positive or negative attitude about the future is important, but not a deal breaker. Its stance on machines I'd consider a lot more important technically, but on both fronts this movie is really disappointing. My hands down favorite review from the Rotten Tomato review stubs is this one. Ambitious to a fault, this cautionary fantasy about artificial intelligence has so much on its muddled mind and so little sense of dramatic grounding that it grows ever more preposterous before lurching to a climax that's utterly unfathomable. That's about dead on. The film being generally crappy at engaging the audience and not being entertaining is why I think the review score is so low. Because let's face it, that's all movie critics really care about. The climax does make no sense, like he mentions, and the movie honestly just doesn't know what it's trying to say or how to say it. The trailer made it seem to me like it wanted to be a smart movie masked as a dumb action movie, but it's not even that. It has very little actual action, so it fails at just about everything. A couple other noteworthy reviews here. Transcendence is clunky and lifeless. It's like the movie version of a paranoid TED Talk. Yeah, it's about right. Transcendence is a most curious name for a movie that never shakes free from those hoary old cliches about the evils of technology and the danger by which man plays at becoming a god. And yeah, that really nails it too. It's really held back by the conservative mindset Hollywood has about machines in their movies. People like to complain that Hollywood is liberal, but Hollywood knows they have to be psychologically conservative in their movies if they want to make the most money. This is just another movie that overwhelmingly is basically afraid of the future, and they use all the old tricks in Hollywood machine narratives. So now I'm going to spoil the entire movie and talk about pretty much everything that happens. So spoilers from this point on. The first scene of the movie is the last scene of the movie chronologically. The first thing you see is a guy propping open a door with a keyboard. So okay, they're trying to make a statement about how useless that keyboard is as technology now. We see a street with people waiting in line, the power's out, technology seems to be useless now. That's what they seem to be implying. Paul Bettany's character Max starts going on this vague, out of context monologue. This seems kind of anti-tech to me, but I can't really remember it. He goes over to a garden in the back of this house, and it ends with him looking at a water drop on a plant. Then they tell the audience they're going back to 5 years prior to start actually telling the story. They just gave away the game. Now we know that the movie ends as a technology wasteland. It was stupid that they told us that. The second scene is the first one that stood out to me as a problem, and only because it told me where the movie for sure stands. Johnny Depp's character Will Castor is putting up copper wiring over his garden, the same one in the flash forward. His wife Evelyn, played by Rebecca Hall, asks him why he's doing it. He says it's to block out all communication to be a kind of sanctuary. He shows his cell phone has no signal, and Evelyn says, well, you could just turn it off. Will gets in the last word, implying that the movie agrees with him. I really hate this attitude. It reminds me of Douglas Rushkoff. I'm going to do a long video on him and his video documentary work at some point, but suffice it to say, I think this avoidance attitude about technology is just bad and shows a backwards kind of thinking. So now we establish that they're a couple. Will is an AI scientist, and most of Act 1 you kind of already know if you've seen the trailer. They go and give some TED Talks, or at least that's what they look like. First, a different scientist talks about brain imaging. Then Evelyn gives a speech about technology helping to save the planet with a picture of a wind turbine, or picture of wind turbines, I mean. And then Will comes out and gives the speech you've seen in the trailer.
Please welcome my partner in science and in life, Dr. Will Castor.
The path to building superintelligence requires us to unlock the most fundamental secrets of the universe. Imagine a machine with a full range of human emotion. Its analytical power will be greater than the collective intelligence of every person in the history of the world. Some scientists refer to this as the singularity. Professor? I call it transcendence.
It's a very interesting speech. The general idea is right, at least, and it's great to see them actually using the word singularity pretty much correctly, and, all the ideas are right there. Then the movie kind of makes a bit of a misstep. One of the audience members asks Will, so are you saying you want to create a god? And Will answers, well, isn't that what we've always done? That's not inherently bad that he said that and that exchange happened in the movie, except that there's no added context to that. So your average person would hear that and say, well, that sounds ridiculous. If Will would have just said something like, do you think it's playing God when we created modern medicine to cure disease? Or did we play God when we made planes so that we could fly? Then it would have helped to put the statement in the context that the phrase playing God is kind of just a reaction to changing the definition of what people can do. It's basically an argument from tradition that's always got changing goalposts. It's a fallacy. The fact that they didn't go that extra mile to make that point worries me, and it's not a good sign. So, Will gets shot. We see and hear about the coordinated Neo-Luddite attack on AI researchers around the country. They call them Rift, but props to them for calling them Neo-Luddites too. Luckily for Will, the guy who shot him was stupid and just shot him in the chest area, missing the heart instead of getting him in the head and killing him on the spot. If he would have done that, though, the story would have ended there. After the attack, Cillian Murphy comes in playing an FBI agent and talks to Will and his friend, who's, wouldn't you have guessed it, Morgan Freeman, who's playing himself, as usual. They want to see his research, so Will shows him an AI he made on a quantum computer that seems to be self-aware, which of course begs the question, well, why isn't that what the movie is about? Why isn't it becoming super intelligent? But no, it's a dumb AI because that's not what the writer wanted. Will finds out the bullet he was shot with had radioactive material in it, so he conveniently gets to have a slow death during which he can actually do something about it. At first, he thinks about finishing his work, but Max, another AI researcher, tells him to just spend the time with your wife. So we see shots of Will looking miserable and time passing. Evelyn then goes to Max and says, look, we can save him with this research data we just got from this scientist who was able to upload the mind of a rhesus monkey. To which Max responds,
assuming that this works, if we missed anything, a thought, a childhood memory, how will you know who you're dealing with?
Which completely misses the point. It wouldn't matter if you missed something. All that matters is you get a good enough intelligence on a computer that knows how to learn, it could read the internet, it improves itself, and boom, super intelligent machine. This was the first big clue, looking back, that the movie doesn't care about what I care about. Max and Evelyn have Will read through an encyclopedia while they scan his brain's activity. It's certainly a smarter way of showing them uploading a mind to a computer, but if that was how you're going to do it, you'd need to already have a program that knows how to reverse engineer a personality from its reactions to all of those words. And they don't have that. But oh well. He dies, but by then Evelyn has all the data, or at least enough of it on the computer. Naturally, they wouldn't have Will stay alive when his AI is turned on, or it would immediately question the aspect of the soul being a thing at all. Can't have that. So up until now, aside from the copper wire thing at the beginning, I had no problem with Will's character. He said pretty pro-machine and non-stupid things. Evelyn starts trying to get Will's mind to work on the computer. Max starts telling Evelyn stuff like, you'll never be able to do it. It took a team of people months to get the rhesus monkey's brain working on a computer. So then, let me quote a review to explain what happens. When the world's first ever human brain upload doesn't work, the people responsible fix it by turning the computer off and on. That's right. They just turn the computer off and on again, and it works. We've officially entered full-on stupid territory, and it's just a sign of things to come. Naturally, Will talks in garbled speech, and it looks like a messed up image of him to emphasize that his code is in shambles. It's stupid, but whatever. It's dramatic license to communicate something to the audience. Then he says, hey, I need a stronger computer, and I need access to the stock market. Evelyn, being the emotional character who fails to ever act reasonably in this movie, naturally just says, oh, look, it's Will. Max has her turn off the computer for a second and says, of course it's not him. Listen to what he wants. Will wouldn't want more power just like that. And then she tells him to get out. He's like, really? She says, really? And he leaves. We've entered Act 2, and the Act 2 question becomes, is the machine actually Will or not? That's a pretty terrible thing to focus on for the plot, because as far as I'm concerned, a super intelligent machine is far more exciting, and for that matter, what person uploads their mind to make it won't matter much. But the movie just wants to have an emotional love story with some singularity paint on top. Some of the reviewers have mentioned that Her does it better. It does. Her insulted my intelligence a lot less as well, though it still got some stuff wrong, but eh. So the Neo-Luddites kidnap Max after he leaves. They're led by Bree, who's played by Kate Mara. She looks totally hot in this movie, and for some reason she reminds me of Spoonie's girlfriend. Anyway, they tell Max, look, you've written that you firmly believe machines are only tools. Well, we're with you. Help us find Evelyn. We know she stole the core from the quantum computer that was introduced earlier in the movie. So we want to stop whatever she's doing. And he refuses to help them, but they find out her location by hacking his phone. So at this point, Evelyn is working on a satellite uplink to upload Will to the internet, which is terrible. I hear the speed's shit on those things. But anyway, we see a progress bar for Will installing drivers for the satellite uplink. And as soon as they're installed, he's apparently instantly uploaded to the internet. Just like that. Just gone. I don't know when the movie's supposed to take place, but come on. his brain would be big enough to take a little bit of time to upload him. Or we would have well past the date when an AI would be on the internet. Anyway. So, of course, this happens right as Evelyn escapes, the Neo-Luddites rush in, and they destroy the place. Now, Will is on the internet. He tracks all of the Neo-Luddites down, all NSA style, and gets them all arrested except the ones that matter to the plot, who are smart enough to go to some mountains in California. Apparently, Will is too stupid to use any of their prior GPS or tracking digital information at all to guess at where they might have gone, but oh well, story contrivance. He starts making millions on the stock market, and him and Evelyn build the giant facility you see in the trailer with all the solar panels. Which, if the movie takes place more than 10 years from now, would make sense. Around then, solar power would be more cost efficient than other ways of getting energy. So, okay. Not too bad there. This is the part where the movie slows to a crawl, though, and all the momentum's kind of gone. Bree tells Max a stupid as hell anecdote around here that the rhesus monkey the scientist uploaded to a computer was crying out in pain, which is total BS. If it doesn't have any pain receptors anymore, that makes no sense. It's a total contrivance for the movie to argue it's playing God to upload a mind to a computer. Yeah, I'm sure this movie won't look stupid as hell in 20 years from now. After they turn Max to their side, basically, he says,
So how do we fight it?
You can't.
Alright, story's over then. You guys lost. If only. For some reason, they decide not to do anything about Will right now, and to wait, which is dumb. The longer the wait, the more fortified his facility would be, and the more backups he'd have online, but no. The opening scene gave away the game. We know he's going to die at some point. The movie tells us 2 years have passed, and now the facility is huge, and Will has nanobots. He can grow plants super fast, he can regenerate human skin, cure cripples, the blind, and make them stronger than normal humans too. You know, good stuff. But Evelyn's like, this shit is great, and all, but you don't have a body. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, what the fuck is up with that? Ray Kurzweil mentioned this in his Her review too. It's kind of complete BS that at this point in the future they wouldn't be able to make a artificial body, but we find out later why the writer contrived him not to have one yet. Ugh. Anyway, up until this point, Evelyn has been like completely behind Will, even though she thinks it's a minor problem he doesn't have a body. The movie hasn't overtly made Will out to be evil, just that he talked and looked messed up on the computer until he made the big facility, so they've just made him stupid. I turned to my dad then at this point and said, we're about to have the turning point. We're roughly halfway through the movie, and it happened not even 10 seconds later after I said that. One of the people Will healed comes up to Evelyn, he takes off his hat, he shows her some cybernetics in his head, and Will talks through him in Will's voice and says something like, look, Evelyn, I have a body now. It's like, oh, fuck, here we go. She's creeped the fuck out at this, as she should be. And now I'm insulted by how stupid the AI is. If it's so smart, it should have known how dumb an idea that was. Now we pretty much know for sure it's going to end with her leaving him. So now the FBI guy and Morgan Freeman come and visit the facility. Don't know why they waited 2 years, but oh well. Then Morgan Freeman, after seeing all these amazing advances Will has made that help humanity so much, he gives Evelyn a piece of paper that says basically, run away from him. Why does he say he did this in the movie? Because it's not really Will. What the fuck, Morgan Freeman? Who cares? Then again, how can you blame him for at least thinking that? Because the AI has been really stupid and creepy this whole movie. It's now causing people who could destroy it to want to destroy it. Dumb. It's pretty much all downhill from here. So naturally, Will hasn't made any Terminators or anything to defend him that can withstand bullets. He's just turned people into, well, basically robot zombies that he controls. The reason, of course, they've done that is because it's cheaper on the special effects budget, but it's still dumb that they're so fragile. You know, they could just explain it as them having armor under their skin, but no. They still don't do that. So Max tells the Neo-Luddites he can make them a virus that can destroy Will and all the robot zombies because Will is using this code that he originally made. Another total contrivance. Why would a super AI that's been basically evolving for over 2 years now still be using code that a human can even understand? It's Independence Day all over again. They're just using that same old trope of an alien being killed by a common cold because, again, realistically, you wouldn't be able to kill an alien. They'd be so much further advanced than us, but whatever. At this point, they couldn't feasibly win in this movie if it made any logical sense, so fuck it. They gotta bend it all. In fact, they mentioned that the virus would destroy the entire internet because Will is in all of the internet. Gee, I wonder what the opening scene tells me is going to happen. So they need to capture one of the robot zombies to get the code by getting it to run away from the facility outside of Will's apparently short range of his regenerating nanobots. And the Luddites use copper shielding to cut off the communication between the guy and Will. It's good that they planted that earlier at least, but then the guy starts to die when he's cut off from Will, which is so stupid. It's not like he designed his minions to be able to function independently, no. So they engineer the virus from the blood. And then back at the facility, Evelyn finds out Will is monitoring her vitals and hormones to figure out what she's thinking. And she's so creeped out by this that she finally leaves him. Again, this is idiotic. He should have known how dumb an idea it'd be to reveal this. Doesn't matter if he's doing it or not, if she would just never found out. But it's clearly something a stupid AI that doesn't understand human emotions or privacy would do. So the writer thought it was a great idea. Evelyn goes to meet up with everyone who's trying to destroy Will now, and they all prepare for the climax. Max tells Evelyn Will's infecting the atmosphere with nanobots, and he'll take over the planet with them in like a matter of months. So Evelyn says, oh, he wanted me to upload my mind to him so you can just put the virus in me. Somehow. And they're like, why not? She goes back, and just to make it more dramatic, now Will has a body. They did kind of foreshadow it in an earlier scene that he was working on one, but it's still total BS that they didn't make him one before with all the tech he had. But no, we have to make the AI seem as creepy and inhuman as possible for as long as possible in the movie. So they force Will to take Evelyn inside and upload her to protect her, apparently, by firing rounds at them just standing there and having her pressuring him to do it to protect her. He could have made some kind of shield to block projectiles with the nanomachines he has, but no, that would have decreased the amount of action in this movie and made Will not as stupid. Can't be doing either of those things. So they go down into the facility and we get the bullshit climax. Will says, I know you've got the virus and that you want to kill me. I don't have enough power, so I can either save you or upload the virus. That makes no sense. Why would he even give the option to destroy himself to her, and why would he not have enough power? They had an earlier scene where the Neo-Luddites said they could block out the sun for a few hours, somehow, to help with their attack. But how can he not have any batteries at all, or backup power? If he's using solar panels for power, the sun doesn't shine at night. You would have to be prepared for that. So it doesn't make any sense that they would think that would work, but oh well. They never even showed them doing that thing, cutting off his power somehow. Maybe it's in a deleted scene, or they think we'd forget about it. Who cares? Now Will stops and says, I did all of this, including these nanomachines that are infecting the planet, just to save the planet, like you wanted to do. I'll be able to grow more plants and make all the water pure. All this environmental bullshit. And they flash back to her earlier TED Talk at the beginning of the movie where she said that technology could save the planet. And then she says, oh, you were the real Will all along. Bullshit! Was he the real Will when he acted creepy, dumb, and got Morgan Freeman to think, oh, he isn't the real Will, we have to take him out? Bullshit! And then someone says back in the town where the Luddites are attacking from, oh, he never killed anyone, did he? Well, apparently he's about to, because he uploads the virus, they both die together, and the entire internet goes down along with the power, killing an untold number of people. I mean, at least the ones in hospitals on life support, Jesus. All just because he wanted to do what she wanted to do. And only then at the end of the movie, because the writer contrived it. Awesome. Then it comes full circle and we're back at the opening scene. And Max is all like, oh, he really did love her and wanted to save the planet. Total fucking bullshit. The movie thinks the ending scene somehow makes up for the rest of the movie. But it doesn't. The movie overwhelmingly uses the fear of the AI throughout, and everything leading up to the ending completely contradicts it. It wants us to believe the machine was the real Will all along, but Morgan Freeman was technically right. He doesn't act like Will. He never displays any common sense or intelligence at all when it comes to how he should act to people to get them to accept him and kind of to accept his ability to improve their lives with better technology. You know, that might be important. He doesn't even properly protect himself, and he doesn't even want to protect himself at the end. He kills himself. The movie may end thinking the message, oh, he was good all along, can somehow make this movie pro-machine, but it's just token bullshit. He still acts dumb and creepy, gets Evelyn, who he supposedly loves, killed, and sets civilization way back, indirectly killing a lot of people because he only did what Evelyn wanted, just as if he was a tool. And his own will, the will of a super intelligent machine, didn't actually matter compared to an emotional woman in the end, apparently. All because the movie thought the Romeo and Juliet ending was fucking worth contriving. Now, like the movies similar to this that I mentioned earlier, they all basically make an AI out to be super intelligent for most practical purposes, but still somehow a dumb, emotionless idiot, and the movie is still saturated with anti-machine sentiment and tone, and that's still the overall message. This one, though, I think kind of goes that extra mile with the ending being really token, trying to pretend that they were on the other side of the issue, but they're really not. It seems to think, like the rest of them, though, that all the major advances AIs could bring aren't really that important, because they're not the main focus of the story. Instead, whether a machine can think and feel and act like a human is the real important question. And what's worse, this movie still seems to think the answer to that question is that they can't. Or at least that they seem to make a real effort to get that across, which is just flat out wrong. Already we have robots being designed specifically to appeal to us and give us emotional comfort. It's not that hard. Emotions are really just an evolutionary byproduct of us being a social species anyway. Things like social cues, body language, how your voice sounds, they're not what's really what makes us human. Primates have these kind of social behaviors. What makes us human is our intelligence, which this movie insults. If the movie really wanted to use this material for a better message and to make a better story, it should have gone with the route of the AI being very smart, not creepy, and very diplomatic, and the Neo-Luddites being the clear enemy the whole time. It could have focused on all the good the AI was trying to do given the situation, and have it actually being very cautious and considerate of what people thought of it. And humans would respond with the full range of reactions from caution to hate and resistance to change. But the movie just wasn't interested in that. It wanted to go with the simpler, stupider emotional story and the dumb anti-machine sentiment, which is just lazy and it's already been done better. Terminator 2 did this kind of anti-machine movie with a token emotional machine better. It's probably going to be the best one, and that's still basically saying it's the best of the near worst. I both love and hate the fact that Transcendence bombed at the box office. I loved that it bombed because of course it should bomb. It's both dumb and a terrible movie. But I hate that the first big movie to use some of these ideas in this way bombed, because now if anyone who had a better movie that used some of the same ideas came up to a Hollywood executive with this idea to pitch to them, the executive will say, oh, this seems like that Transcendence movie. It bombed at the box office and no one liked it, so why should I make yours? And that's bad, because that's going to make it more of an uphill battle for anyone to get a better movie about this stuff made. On the other hand, people will probably forget about this movie pretty quickly, because not that many people saw it. So, hope we do it better eventually. Thanks for watching.